Right, Ken, we are live. How are you?
Hey, fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. How was the trip home?
It was fantastic to get back to Michigan and visit some family, play a little bit of golf. It was an A plus. Thanks for asking. And yours?
Ditto. Didn't get any golf in. Got a lot of weeding done though in Michigan, and it was hot, like Florida hot there last weekend. So that was good. All right. So for those of you that don't know, that haven't watched us, first, please like, subscribe below to join our channel. So anytime we drop some content, you'll be notified of that. But we are licensed in California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and Michigan. That's important and relevant based on the conversation we're about to have when we're talking all about home values. So I get these questions all day, all week long. I know you do as well. And the first thing somebody will ask is, well, is that just there in Sarasota? You get the same thing?
I do. Yeah. In fact, I've been able to share a little bit because Phoenix, I'm going to say, has been the first one to the party of having a substantial increase in inventory and an adjustment to the home prices, uh, more so than what you're seeing down in Florida, and certainly same deal in Michigan. So that conversation is piquing people's interest of going, hey, what's going on out there? How did it happen? What are the drivers? How are people reacting to it? So it's been interesting to be able to share those different pockets for some context or relevance.
Keep hearing that word hyper local. We're in that spot right now where like a community can be going up or down a little bit differently than the actual city the community's in and or county,
That's
not
well
to
said.
mention state.
Mhm.
So when I was up in Michigan, gosh, it's been a seller's market there for how long?
Since the second half of 2012.
So we're 10 years in for Michigan being a seller's market. Most of that is because there's not a lot of building there and not a lot of people moving to Michigan. It's a lot of move uppers, I guess you could say. Um, prices aren't, let's start here. Prices aren't going up anywhere right now. So we're done with that. Fair?
Yeah, I believe the rampant or crazy appreciation rates are over. Now,
All
again,
right.
that's the hard part because you can't to have that be known or felt. You got to figure out how far back you're comparing it to.
Fair.
Uh, even if they're down, we'll say month over month, that's still a substantial increase from what it was last year. So again, there's some relevance there to figure out how you really want to state that.
Just in its simplest terms, values aren't going up anymore. So the non-simple terms or the problems that we're having or we're seeing is there's a little bit of denial that's taking place from the sellers and or the agents representing the sellers, that home value.
Uncertainty is a good way to say it too. Yeah, denial is the extreme part. Uncertainty is kind of in the middle, and then we got folks on the other side that just put their head in the sand and say, "Forget this noise. I'll revisit again in 3 to 6 months."
So I know the premise of the video is how much are they going to go down? So again, you can look at this from a national perspective, maybe a city perspective or a region perspective. Let's stick to the region for a second. And you had mentioned that the West will always cool first before it moves over to Midwest, Northeast, and the South. And that seems to be the same thing happening right now. Our tech heavy cities, our Austin, our Boise, our obviously the Bay Area,
Yep.
Phoenix, Las Vegas. These are the places that are getting hit first. and anybody can see this. Just go into realtor.com, check out price reductions, and you're going to see a massive amount there. Seems to be happening every 5 to 7 days now. There's a price
Yeah, I
reduction.
mean, I've been trying to follow along. Kind of the sense that I'm getting out here is, inventory in 5 months it's 5 times what it was in March. We were looking at it. Transactions that are taking place are 15 to 20% less than the year before. And I know that Zillow is not, the be all end all for the value, but I've always thought Zillow's a decent barometer to see what's going on. My home is down 5% in value in just a month and a half or 2 months.
2 months.
So, I mean, all those things just say demand is cooled, supply is increasing. I wouldn't say it's panic, but it is an adjustment or a downward pull in property values that, gosh, I'd say just in the last 3 months could be 5 to 10%.
Okay, so the South seems to be hanging on a little bit more than the other 3 regions. Still more people coming here, weather related, East Coast time zone, no state income tax, relatively mild property taxes. If you look at Texas,
a ton of beaches. Yes.
Yeah.
It checks Texas, a lot of boxes.
It does. Yeah. Texas is struggling. Dallas is starting to turn, just like Phoenix. I think they're right behind you guys. High property taxes in Texas. No state income taxes, but those property taxes are a doozy there. And when you're talking these high levels, housing values, the affordability levels are crushed in Texas, more so than, say, Arizona or Florida. So we're seeing price reductions there as well, just because the number of people that can actually afford to buy is limited. Northeast is going to be the Northeast. And Midwest is just kind of bouncing along. Again, it'll decline faster than the South, but relatively stable there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look now, so we're entering September, we have about 4 months of the year here, 4.5 months. I think we hit somewhere around, we were pacing about 20% appreciation for the year. And now we're seeing that scale back. We're seeing some numbers that say 8, 10, and 12. So that month over month number is really starting to come down, as you just described at your home in Phoenix.
Yeah. It's fascinating. You mentioned a word a little while ago, and you've been saying this in our internal conversations for a long time. You can spin a lot of stuff a lot of different ways, but affordability is just a doozy. And I was talking with some folks in Michigan in a more rural community, and it was absolutely ridiculous what they would have to pay for a family to rent something in a rural community. And buying in that particular instance was like a $400 to $500 reduction. And there are homes in that price range that they could make it work. So again, they're hyper pockets, but just affordability is driving all of this chaos. Finally, meaning that prices just can't keep going up because people want them to go up. People have to be able to afford to live where they need to live.
Yeah, that the inflation numbers that came out yesterday, the rent shows no sign of cooling yet. We've not seen like a 1 or 2 or 3% dip month over month yet.
Well, it's coming because I have a rental property that I'm trying to get leased out. So the Turkington Economic Indicator says that means rent prices are due to plummet.
We've seen this movie before over the last 25 years.
Lock your rate, buy a house. Yes.
Yep. Okay. So rents not coming down, values remaining flat because we have less units turning because less people can afford. That's why the values they're not really dropping because nothing new substantially is coming to the market right now. And those folks that can't qualify for a mortgage will spend the $400 or $500 more a month to rent still.
Yeah, and even if you could stretch to get the qualifications, does it fit the budget, right? So I think you're saying the same thing, meaning that, all right, I can't qualify for this, or I can, but Jiminy Christmas, I'm going to be jacking up my credit cards because there's just not the disposable cash. And when there's a little bit of fear and uncertainty and doubt in the economy, that's all leading to this slowdown in demand. But
I
it's a
just
good
saw
thing.
a credit card stat, 13% month over month increase, highest since 1982.
In
So
usage or
yes,
balances.
balances. Back to your point of just the struggle of dealing with this inflation. We got, some slightly positive numbers that said, hey, maybe that's not going to increase anymore like the values. Maybe we're going to find some stable footing here as we progress through the rest of the year. But again, what are home values really going to be able to do with mortgage rates at 5.25 and home values bouncing along the all-time high? It still feels like, to me, this is from a personal opinion, that they are going to come down, that they're going to have to come down just based on just almost like a gut feel of, we just don't have enough people that are throwing the money around
They
right
were
now.
they were ridiculously high everywhere. So it was a little bit of excitement if you're a homeowner looking to sell, or if you follow along on that HomeBot app that we have. It makes you feel good that your property value is going up. But we knew that every part of the country, that pace, it was ridiculously high. And so it just needs to correct itself. You're right. It does need to come back down to manageable levels.
So it's going to be a slow coming down over the next 6 to 18 months. So I don't see a big crater, just continuing to slowly come down because the supply is still short. There's still not a ton of inventory coming to the market, relatively speaking, compared to where we
And
were 3 months ago.
the wild card, right, is all of these dormant buyers that, demographics say there should be a bunch of people creating families and needing housing. Like, where does that, between interest rates and property values, where's that plateau need to hit in order to bring these people that we don't even know how many are out there back in, to keep, maybe stop the slight slide down, stabilize, and go from there? That's the part I'm fascinated to follow along with.
So when you're talking to John Doe prospect who's getting ready to embark on a new home, how are you advising them when it comes to home values and what they should be feeling and thinking as they look at this thing over the next, do I wait or do I go now? And
Well, let's start
come down a
with,
little bit till it goes back up.
do you have to move? Okay, so somebody, if they're creating a family, they have to move. Or what are your options? Well, I can buy or I can rent. All right, have you scoured the rental to see what that's going to cost you? And then we come over to the purchase side, right? Because if there's any fear in their thought process about what property values might do, okay, then we go right to the rent part, because that's easy entry, easy exit.
Is there
cake,
fear? Right? Are you getting fear from them right now?
I wouldn't say across the board, but the concern is increasing more than we've seen in the prior 2 years.
Okay, so it's not the first thing they're bringing up to you.
Now,
More fearful for job stability than they are.
So everybody's a little bit in a different spot. meaning that it's
Yep.
a time frame. Gosh, if we look at your kids and my kids, just as an example, I got a certain amount of time, but I have to move. What are my options? If I'm comparing purchasing versus renting, um, most of the time, purchasing, if you can make it work, is going to give you maybe a break in the rent. It's going to give you some part of that payment that you're making is going toward principal. You have more stability. You don't have to worry about your landlord and the annual rent increases. So the purchasing side usually outweighs the rent, except for the part you got to go find something that works for you, where you can just go in and rent, and you could maybe make that selection faster than going through the process of the real estate agent looking for a
What
home,
got,
finding it, and
they're
getting through the
both tough,
inspection.
is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, there's no free lunch.
Right now, they're both tough. Okay. So you're helping them understand pros, cons, not only to renting versus buying, but can it actually be done in the area that you're looking to do it? And but I mean, back in the day, I'm going to go rent, and you go rent. Like, it seemed to be not even a difficult transition.
Most people, what I find,
now.
are starting that way, and then they go realize what they're going to have to pay in rent, and then it ends up getting back to family or somebody that they, maybe a mentor situation. They go, well, why haven't you looked at buying? If the rents are that ridiculous, what can you do? Can you do something where you can own it?
You'd have to get along with your boyfriend or girlfriend or your spouse to buy something. That's not easy to do
Still struggling.
in this environment. Okay, so if we can finish out the year, what number would you put at? So 2022, we know we're going to be up positive. Where do you think that's going to fall at for the year?
My guess is still 12 to 15 above last year is where I think it's going to fall. 12 to 15% above last year's values.
Okay. And where do you think it peaked at so far this year? Was it 22, 21, 20?
Yeah, I would say it was another 22 to 20 to 22,
And
where we peaked probably in June. Yes.
Okay. And then it's going to scale back down from that number about 10% to get you to that 12% number is what you're thinking. Okay.
Back to your denial comment. I think it's people are just going to hold out and wait for the rest of the year to maybe settle less.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So last year, we'll say 21 was up. Let's use round numbers. 20%.
Yes.
This year, it's going to end up being, let's use your 12%. So you're up 32%. Now we get to 23 in 2 years. What does it do next year?
It's possible that it's flat to maybe slightly negative. Again, when we talk about property values dropping, it seems to me like 5 to 10% is the most that we're going to see. Because again, that demand feature will increase a little to keep it from going much further south.
All right, so they're going to start playing with the levers of the interest rates again.
Yep.
So they figured out that somewhere between 5 and 6% 30-year money just shuts this thing down. So even 4.25 to 4 7/8 would be quite a boost to affordability at elevated home levels.
Yes.
Which would bring more people back in. So we think they're going to be dialing those levers in a little bit.
Yeah, I've read a couple of things that when you get 4.5 or below, that's where a couple of people have anticipated that will now start to bring more people back into the game that have just said, I'll take a pass.
Which will allow more sellers to actually get something turned and move on to wherever it is they need to go for their next chapter.
That and correct. The other part is there's a bunch of sellers out there that don't want to be sellers because they're sitting at 3% and they're looking at rates at 5.25 and going, I'd like to move, but this is just ridiculous. I don't want to leave my low interest rate.
So if we say 4.5 months of this year, 12 months next year, so 16, 17 months, it's going to be a slow drive back to trying to find balance in a happy medium and not 20% home value appreciations per year.
Man, the
That's
conversations I'm
crazy.
having with real estate agents right now is interesting because we've got all of that information, right? And so they talk about properties that this one should go fast and it lingers. This one, I don't know that it would go as quickly, right? And you get multiple offers and it actually goes for over asking price. So it's just
Stop right there for a second. On a scale, if you have 10 properties, put those two scenarios into a bucket. So first one have to go price reduction. Is that 7 out of 10? And then multiple properties or offers, is that 3 out of 10? Give me an idea of what you feel there.
I think that the price reductions is probably 4 or 5 out of 10.
Okay.
And then I think the properties that go quickly and then maybe have multiple offers and might go slightly over asking price, my guess is that's about 1 to 1.5 out of 10.
And then what's the other batch?
The other batch is priced appropriately. They just may sit on the market for 2 to 4 weeks before they get an offer. And maybe you have one interested party and you negotiate back, basically back to what it used to be 3 years ago. So I think we still have half the people.
A decent price point, and they're just less demand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the completely priced way above, and then you just keep bringing it down.
Yeah.
And then you have the unicorn, right? The holy cow, I just got lucky and I got 3 offers on day one and it's sold. It's still
Exactly.
happening.
It's the house that's the perfect layout. Everything's been updated. I was talking to one of our partners in Michigan, so we'll call it in the Metro Detroit area. A 15 to 1600 square foot single story home that doesn't look like it was just stepped out of the 70s and in good condition. There was people flocking to it. You know, you got first timers, you got family growing, you got people downsizing to a single. So one of those scenarios is as you said, the unicorn.
And that's 1 to 2 right now. I'm totally in agreement with your breakdown there. That's perfectly said. It's 1.5 maybe can go right away, as opposed to 8.5. It was
Oh my
4
God.
months ago.
Well said. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Awesome information.
I think we proved that we don't really know what we don't know, but
Correct.
we're heading in a direction.
Absolutely. And we're smiling because we're heading in a positive direction.
For sure.
So that's exciting. Yes, it's going to take some time, but we're way further away from that chaos we were seeing.
Yeah, again, somebody that we follow, the term was unhealthy. Certain people thought it was fun and it was a great ride. I get it. But it was unhealthy.
Agree. All right. Have a great weekend. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.
Till next time.
See ya.